let's do some word problems today. How about it? Lesson 58 is on word problems involving percents. So let's just get right down to it. We're going to work a few together and then we'll do the practice problems together. And that will be it. So number 1 says Kathy, John, and Susie have only 20 chickens left. If they began with 80 chickens, what percent of the original flock remains? So we want to know what part remains, okay, the 20. What percent is that? So we'll say it like this. 20 is what percent of 80? Now when we set up our equation, what percent, we're going to put P over 100. Okay, so because percent of 100. So 20 equals what percent of 80? Well, I want to get rid of this 80 first, so I divide by 80 on both sides, and then I get 20 over 80, which is 1/4, equals P over 100. Now I need to get rid of this 100. Alright, it has been divided, so I'm going to multiply, and then it will cross cancel out. So I need to multiply this side by 100 also. When I do, I'm going to get 100 over 4, or 100 divided by 4, which is 25. So 20 is 25% of the 80 that they started with. Alright, number 2. Mimi and Jim have 75 thingamabobs. You ever seen a thingamabob? They want to give Hal 20% of them. So how many thingamabobs do they give Hal? Alright, they have 75 and they want to give Hal 20% of that 75. So we're going to say what number is 20% of 75. So when I set this up in an equation, I put N for what number is 20 over 100 is 20% of the times 75. Alright, so I set that up, and now I've done some cross canceling. I know that here with 75 and 100, 25 will go into each of them. It will go into 75 3 times and into 100 4 times. And then I've got 20 over 4, which equals 5. So I can cross out that 4. So 5 times this 3 is 15. So if they have 75 and they want to give Hal 20%, then they're going to give him 15. Alright, next, number 3. Bo and Christy hide 600 raisins. This, 600, is 60% more than they hid last month. How many raisins did they hide last month? Now, I've put this reminder in here for you. Remember, a percent increase is equal to the 100% it was plus the percent it increased. So a 60% increase is equal to 160% of this number. So 600 is 160%, written as a fraction, of what number? Alright, so I set it up into an equation. 600 equals 160% of what number? Now to get in by itself, I need to get rid of this. So you invert and multiply. So I've done that here, 100 over 160. I did the same thing over here, 100 over 160. All of these canceled each other out, leaving me with n. Alright, and here, 160 and 600, I knew that both of those were divisible by 8. No, I'm sorry. First I reduced this fraction, 100 over 160, to 5 over 8. Took away these two zeros here, and then I had 10 over 16, which reduces to 5 over 8 rather easily. Then I said 8 and 600. 8 goes into itself one time and into 600 75 times. So then all that's left to do is multiply 5 times 75, and I got 375. So last month, and we ask ourselves, is that reasonable? Does that make sense? If last month they hid 375 and this month they hid 600, is that a 60% increase? Well, 375 last is about a little over half of 600. So yeah, it makes sense that it's 60%. Alright, your practice problems. A, Jane and Faye have 32 bagatelles left. Now, I've never seen a bagatelle. Not really sure what it would look like, but we're going to go with it. If they began with 160 bagatelles, what percent of the original number remains? Alright, so let's ask ourselves, how do we need to set this up? We will say 32 is what percent, that means of 100, of 160. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of this 160. I'm going to divide both sides by 160, and that will get rid of that. And WP over 100 is left by itself. Alright, 32 and 160, both of those are divisible by 8. 8 will go into 32 4 times, and it will go into 160 20 times. 4 over 20 will reduce to 1 over 5. So it's better just to go ahead and reduce it. Now we know that we have to multiply by 100 so that this can cancel out. So I'll multiply by 100 over here, and then 100 divided by 5 is 20 equals what percent? Alright, so if they began with 160 and they're down to 32, 32 is only 20% of what they started with, so that is reasonable. Alright, B says Caesar's Legion had an inventory of 2,400 pairs of thongs. If they normally wear out 30% of their supply by the end of the year, how many pairs of thongs remain at the end of the fiscal year? Alright, so they had 2,400 and they normally wear out 30% of that number. 2,400 is their supply. So we can set it up like this. 30% of 2,400 is what number? Alright, well, first thing I'm going to do is take off these 2 zeros off of both of these. That shortens it quite a bit. And then I just have to say 30 times 24. So if I say 24 times 3, I'm going to get 72, and I can add a 0 because it's not 3 we were multiplying by, it's 30. So 720 is what they're going to run to wear out. That's 30%, okay? So, but that's not what we were asked to find. We were asked to find how many remain at the end of the year. So I'm going to have to take this one more step. If they had 2,400 and they wore out 30% of those, and 30% was 720, we can say that they have left 1,680, and that would be our final answer. Now, just a note, another way we could have done this is to say, if we want to know how many remain, and 30% stands for how many they're going to wear out, those are two different things. The percent that would go with how many remain would be 70%. So I could have done this, use 70% of 2400, and that would have given me this answer, and I wouldn't have had to do this other step. But I wanted to do it this way just to show you that you can get it either way that you choose to use it, but if you do this percentage, you're going to have to do this final step because you have to remember what you're being asked to find. Okay, and finally in C, Christopher and Chad collected 40 items. When they added Kathy's items, their total increased by 150%. What was their new total after Kathy's items were added? Alright, they collected 40. They added Kathy's, and this total increased by 150%. So what was the new total? Alright, well, let's see. 150% of 40 equals what number? Now here I can go ahead and say 40 and 100 are both divisible by 20. So this can be a 2 and this can be a 5. And then 150 times 2 is 300. And 300 divided by 5 is 60. Alright, so 60 would be the new total. Now we can say that this is a reasonable answer because if they had 40 and 40 increased 150%, that is 1.5 times. So 1.5 times, if it doubled, that would have been 80. 1.5 would be 60. So you can know that you've got a reasonable answer there. Alright, good job, and I'll see you back tomorrow for lesson 59.